Welcome back to How the Tiger Keeps His Stripes. In this episode, you'll hear from 3 Black Clemson students who, for various reasons, never experienced anything personally that made them seriously consider transferring from Clemson. The organizations you'll hear about in this episode are CBSU, which stands for Clemson Black Student Union, ABEVI, or ACG, which is a program within a nonprofit incorporation whose focus is to produce creative and introspective experiences to assist young adults in discovering their passion, path, and purpose in life, and the Orientation Ambassador Program, or OA. OAs are led by team leaders, or TLs, who are second years in the program, and they're all students who work at the orientation programs for incoming first-year Clemson students over the summer. Here's episode 3, Ever Loyal.
My road to Clemson was actually not to Clemson. My story with that was I really wanted to go to Clemson. My friend Thomas Marshall, he's also a Clemson student here. He went to my high school. And I applied to Clemson on the day they started classes because that was when the application finally opened. And my heart was in my chest the entire time. I had anxiety. I was just I don't know what's going on. I don't know how this is going to work. But then I applied to 11 other schools because I knew Clemson wasn't my main school. My dream school is Columbia University in Manhattan, New York. And then they came down to Alabama A&M, which is a historically Black college. And Clemson. Clemson ended up giving me a full ride for my first 2 years, and so that's how I got to Clemson. But I think in the back of my mind, I always knew I was coming because I came to kind of visit Clemson in the fall semester of my senior year, which would be fall of 2016. I kind of had that home feeling at Clemson, so it was kind of I always knew I was coming here. And then when I got here, I met so many other people. I met people that I went to school with back in high school, and they kind of guided me around the campus, kind of like my unofficial, official mentors. And then I joined ABEVI Collegiate Group, Clemson Black Student Union, and expanded from there. I joined RTC and met people through cadet orientation, and the story just started there, and then it expanded on to now. For me, my freshman year, I was an engineering major, had an emotional breakdown on the phone with my Connections mentor. Connections is a minority organization that kind of helps students get through their first year, kind of adapting to Clemson's campus. On top of me being in Connections, me being at Peerwise, which is another organization dedicated to STEM students, I just didn't know where to go from there. I was struggling in engineering, occasionally struggling in Math 1060, even though I took calculus in high school, and a lot was just spiraling down. And so I didn't know where my first semester was going, let alone my entire freshman year. With the help of my mentor for Peerwise and Connections, along with Matthew Kurt, I found my new major. But for that entire freshman year, after I decided I didn't want to do engineering anymore, I struggled because even with me being in all these organizations, that was just something I'm used to. I'm used to being involved, but I'm not used to self-reflection. That's why I blog now, just because that's what helped me get through. And then I went through a lot within not only self-identity, but making sure I keep myself accountable for things, because we always say be accountable and not actually do it. Going into my sophomore year, I was always that person who was my friend's hype man / photographer on the phone, and I was like, well, why don't I take this professionally, because I do it all the time. And so July 13, 2018, I founded KDB Photography, and now it's another thing up under my belt. And so now I'm known for my photography business, and everything it kind of started going uphill. But at the same time, I think at one point I started putting too much on my plate. But luckily, by my sophomore year, I won my first pageant. Well, my first official pageant that wasn't fundraiser based. So now I'm Miss Kappa Alpha Psi. And then my spring semester finally came together. So that was the best semester I had. Fall semester of junior year, it wasn't rough, but it was me kind of figuring out where I wanted stuff to be, finally figuring out time management. And this semester I've been on top of everything. I don't think I've fallen behind in any assignments, any classes. I think the most I probably have to do is just make sure my study habits stay secure. Me being an only child, if it happened, and I had to deal with the consequences. And so as I got older, the self-awareness thing just came from kind of my friends holding me accountable, but in a manner of it not being oh, Kiki, you should have known better. It was more so, hey, this is what you did. I don't fully agree with it, but I know you, and this is not how you normally act. What's going on? ABEVI actually brought that out of me too, because in that org, we preach a lot about self-awareness, and especially people who aren't used to being self-aware, or who don't know where they are in their life. And we tell people it's okay to not know where you are in your life because you have your whole life to figure out what you want to do, where you want to go, and who you want to be. And so that's kind of how I started getting closer to my self-awareness, knowing where I am. A Bevy Collegiate Group is an organization founded to help people find their passion, path, and purpose through creative and introspective experiences. To summarize, it gives you that family, your home away from home aspect. It's that group that knows what you need and tries to give it to you without making you feel like you have to get it. A Bevy not only helped me with kind of figuring out myself, giving me that home away from home type of feel, but it also helped me grow in my craft because it presented me with people who not only are willing to be like, I'll be your test shot, or I'll be somebody who's just willing to be an open ear. It gave me people who have been through the same thing or have been through similar things and can guide me. A Bevy started off as an org that, hey, I was just trying to figure out what it was. I knew the person who was a member at the time. I knew Vanessa Marshall, and she was like, yeah, you should join A Bevy or at least check us out. Da, da, da. They had an event called Road to Clemson State, and I checked that out. And I was just trying to figure out what it was. And so then I went through membership week, and I kind of grew a bond with everybody, the 24 other people that I joined with, and with us all growing a bond, it made me love what I was coming into. Later on, I got the chance to meet the founder and listen to his story. And so it became something I fell in love with. It's something that, I'm always willing to talk about. So somebody said, what's A Bevy? And I'm really ready to spit it out. Because it's something that I love. It gave me a bigger picture aspect to a lot. And it actually helped me build myself as a leader. And so now I'm president of another org while still being a member of A Bevy. So it kind of molded me in other areas that now affect bigger groups of people. With the self-awareness thing, I've learned to, I can't be prideful, because if I want to do what I want to do, regardless if that's socially or, college-wise, like, everything is going to have a consequence, and the more prideful I am, the less I can do. Clemson, it really is what you make it. Obviously there's going to be some things that are said, like some microaggressions. For me, I haven't experienced anything that would make me be like, oh, I can't go here anymore. It's been more so like I've had like one microaggression here and there. As a student here, it's actually been a pretty rewarding experience because this is something I'm going to deal with in the real world. Me wanting to go into the Air Force, I'm going to be the lower number. Being that as a female, it's lower percentage, and as an African American, it's a lower percentage than that. And so this is kind of like the look of a cultural shock that I need, but not that is going to make me want to run away from anything. Like I said before, I wanted to go to Alabama A&M University, but Clemson offered me more financially. It was full ride, pay $4,000 worth of loans in the first semester. And so financially, yes, go here. And the reason why I think I wanted to transfer, it was more so of a selfish reason. Because we wanted to go to Alabama A&M, I wanted to be in the band in college. I always had that, I want to be in the HBCU band type of experience. What made me want to transfer was Connections took a trip to Battle of the Bands my freshman year, second semester, and I saw Alabama A&M in the Battle of the Bands. And my feelings were really hurt because not only had I just said I was going to go to Clemson over a school that I had already been looking into for a while, but the small dream that I had came true for somebody else that could have been very true for me if I would have just sucked it up and paid that $4,000 worth of loans. What made me not transfer was, as I was thinking, I was like, well, what if I would have went to Alabama A&M? I would have met nobody I know now. I don't know where I would be. I don't know how bad my anxiety would be. And even then, would I even be happy? But like, it didn't change anything because I've grown so much here. So the transferring thing wasn't even a big deal. That was the most I thought about transferring. If I was here during the psych sit-in time, I might have wanted to transfer back then, but even then, I probably wouldn't have transferred. So I think for me, I was just stuck in this Clemson look. Like, it might very well be something in these hills for all I know that makes me really want to stay at this school. But for some reason, I just really have this thing about Clemson that's making me want to stay. The organizations have just been a bonus. Being the president of an org just happened to be a bonus of me staying at the school. Me being a bevy was a bonus of me even coming to the school. The orgs itself have been more so like incentives. December of 2019. I wasn't really having doubts in the fall semester, but in the spring semester, I went out for president of a bevy and I didn't get it, and I didn't get vice president either. And so for that, that made me feel like nobody sees what I do, nobody, understands what I'm doing. Didn't make me want to leave Clemson, but it made me want to leave the org. And I never really told anybody that because it wasn't really that deep in the aspect of, oh, well, I didn't get it, so I'm leaving the org. It was just more so, it was a personal thing. Because for me, I took that as like an L. I took that as a failure. And my biggest fear was always failing. And so it felt like I failed for people to see what I do. And that hurt me on the inside, and it really affected my attitude for like a couple of days towards the org and towards myself. And then in December of 2019, I became president of the National Society of Leadership and Success. That really made me appreciate the fact that I wasn't president of a bevy because of the fact of my fall semester. Last semester got really, really busy, and I wouldn't be able to dedicate myself as much to a bevy as I would have wanted to if I was president. And so I would have had to resign. And for me, it was like God saying, like, this is the reason why I didn't allow you to become president. And it was kind of like reassurance that this is what I'm here to do. And then I got my exec board for the NSLS, which is the acronym for it. And that was like, and we functioned so well. And it was just like, I wouldn't get this experience anywhere else. And like, that was confirmation that, hey, you're doing the right thing. It took me becoming a pageant queen one semester to start to like it. And then it took another semester of me getting my highest GPA since I've been at college for me to like what I was doing and taking classes that I thoroughly enjoyed, switching my major to get me to even like getting a degree. But like loving it, no. But I feel that by the time I get that degree, I'll be so in love with the fact that I have it. At the end of the day, it's well needed to get through because the paper says you're certified, but the experiences you get from being in college is like no other. Don't stop. So many times we feel that because this one little thing happened, it made the world blow up. Like for you to be here, you Sherm to be here during the psych sit-in, that blew up your world. But and that's close enough to my class where we could be like, yo, that's not right. But class of 23 will probably look at it and be like, wow, that's crazy. I mean, they'll be like, I mean, for me, it don't make a difference because they didn't happen when I was here. And for class of 2043, it'd be like, oh, that happened. That's just something else in history that happened to Clemson. But for them, like, it's going to be like, you need to understand that you weren't always worth coming here. Don't take being a black student at Clemson for granted. Don't think because you're a black student at Clemson, you were meant to be here. Like, make yourself feel like you're supposed to be here. Not saying that, oh, you don't deserve to be here, but every student should feel like they earned being here. And if you feel like you earned being here, even if you don't feel like it, you are here. And so, as a black student at Clemson, you should be black Clemson. Like, there's nothing wrong with being close to any other race, but there's nothing like your own culture. So don't be afraid to keep pushing, even when stuff slaps you in the face. If you fail that class, don't be like, oh, I don't deserve to be at Clemson, I'm not smart. Because that's very much wrong. Somebody else before you has failed that class too, but you have so many unlimited resources. So like, don't be afraid to fail. Be bold. If you got an opinion, say it. But your voice can't be heard if you don't say anything. Closed mouths don't get fed. So at the end of the day, either you're going to be bold or you're going to be quiet. So you need to be bold, make a difference, and regardless if it's a big impact or not, you gotta do it. With us being only 6% right now, even if we were 2%, we have to be so strong that if 30% of them walked in here right now, our 2% will make a difference and make that 30% look at the two like, dang, we want to be like that. College is about learning yourself. So don't come here thinking that you know everything about yourself because you don't. That one experience of failing a class or breaking up with your first love or even joining an org will really change your aspect on who you are as a person. And so, being within yourself, being self aware, being bold, being willing to make an impact, being willing to step out of your comfort zone and thoroughly step out of your comfort zone, not just doing one thing, oof, that's different. I ain't never tried that before. No, like consistently doing that, being willing to continue doing the things that people before you did, but making it better is what will better Clemson, especially Black Clemson. So don't be so caught up in tradition that you can't change anything and you don't feel like you have the right to. If you're not doing those little things, then don't worry about coming to Clemson because the experience is going to eat you alive.
I have an older brother who goes here, my roommate. I actually kind of technically followed him to Clemson, if I'm being honest. Because, I mean, it wasn't on my radar. But when he came, I was like, oh, I'll check it out. But then when I got accepted here, I was like, I'm going. When I was applying to schools my senior year, I was gun-ho set on, like, I didn't say that I was going. Like I said, I wasn't coming here. Like, don't ask me because I'm not going. I've had like maybe 7 schools total, but like most of them were like free applications. Like they send you in the mail saying apply. So Claflin sent me something to apply for, and I was going to go to Claflin at first. I applied there, got in. I'm going to Claflin. And then Winthrop hit me up like, we'll waive the application fee if you apply here, like between this and this date. So I applied to Winthrop, got in, said, oh, I'm going to Winthrop. And then, you know, like the early acceptance deadline for Clemson. If you apply before December or whatever, you get in by February 15th. February 15th comes around, I don't get a letter. February 16th comes around, I get my letter saying I got into Clemson. And I was like, I'm going to Clemson. And here we are 3 years later at Clemson. So that's how I got here started. But I honestly think about this a lot, like how different my life would have been had I not been in Clemson right now. My friend circle would look different. I wouldn't be on this right now if I was not in Clemson. It's just a lot of ifs. Like, what if I hadn't applied here? What if I was seriously saying I wasn't going to come to Clemson? For myself, I haven't had it, but I've seen it through the lens of other people. Just like the whole Clemson history they push under the rug type of thing.
What you mean?
Like I had, for example, I had a tour group on Monday. Today's Wednesday. Yeah, on Monday. Like from 8th, 11th graders from like Columbia. And I gave a tour stop, and then I referred to Tillman Hall as Old Man. And one of the girls was like, did you say old man? I said, no, sweetie, old man. Old man.
Old man.
So then it was like, so why don't you call it Tillman Hall? And they give him that whole spiel. It's like, we don't really refer to Ben Tillman because of who he is and what he's done in the past. And even now, here's some of the stories from the student affairs grad students and like their discussions where people still just don't get it. I don't even know what we can do as people of color to like get people to understand like what the issue really is. Like I think some of them know it, but some of them like are literally just oblivious to the fact that there is a deeper issue. Personally, I would say compared to people who I've known, I've had a pretty or more positive Clemson experience. But that doesn't take away from like what I hear and like things I've seen. But for myself, it's been decent. But one thing I've heard about me possibly staying here for grad school will be that my experience will be jaded because you'll learn more about the history and like who people genuinely are outside of the office. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I mean, I wouldn't mind being in Clemson, but like I said, I just don't want it to like taint my undergrad experience of me learning who people are and their issues that they have amongst themselves. So, like I said, I haven't really had many personally, but I hear a lot of things. So I'm trying to think of a specific example where I can give you. In the student affairs cohort, like 2 weeks ago, they did this exercise with like that people of color sit in a circle, and it was two circles, like a small circle and then a bigger circle. In the smaller circle, people of color sat in there for a round, and the white people, I don't know what I was trying to say. The white people, they sat on the outside of the circle, and there was like a discussion amongst people on the inside of the circle about like their issues of how they felt, but the white people couldn't speak while they weren't in the circle. And there was this one girl who, at that point, considered herself being white because she sat on the outside of the circle. So after that round was over with, they had to switch. Black people of color get outside of the circle, white people get in the circle. That same white girl didn't move. and she said that she didn't move because she is mixed. But if you're mixed, you're still a person of color. So therefore, you should have been on the first. So I think like people like that, they try to play their person of color card whenever they feel like whenever it benefits them. They can also be passed for white people whenever it benefits them. But like if you're mixed, you can be mixed. That's fine. Be biracial, be mixed, be whatever you are, but understand what your true identity is. Tiger Prowl is an organizational fair for students at Clemson. It's every fall and spring. Spring's a little bit smaller because it's not a big deal. And like all 500 plus organizations come talk about the organization, give out information or whatever. Freshman year, I went to Tiger Prowl, signed up for. I think I only signed up for A-Bevy at Tiger Prowl, if I'm being honest. So I signed up to be on A-Bevy's email list, and I joined A-Bevy my freshman year. Freshman year, I also became an orientation ambassador. So freshman year, I was pretty involved. I was also in connections my freshman year too. So I was pretty involved. Sophomore year, I was an RA. I did orientation again, and now I'm a junior, and I am now the director of the gospel choir. And what else do I do on campus? I'm also an A-Bevy still. Now I'm on the E-board as membership director. I think that's all I do on campus now. Probably my orientation experience as it comes to like me wanting to stay here, because that also kind of ties into the student affairs thing that we were talking about earlier, like why, like making that change, you know. I honestly, I remember sitting in orientation thinking that I wanted to be an orientation ambassador, but as far as like finding out how to apply, I don't remember how. But I do know this right here. I was on the way home. The application was on a Friday night at 5 o'clock. I was on the way home in Anderson, getting on 85. And the application closed. I didn't submit it yet, but I got an email saying that like they opened it back up because nobody really applied for it. So I applied the second time around, and I got it. And then like we have a class. I think it's EDC 3900, one of those classes. It's not like a real like academic class, lecture class, but it's like you go and you talk about issues. Like we had a lot of discussions about like race relations, the history of Clemson, because like people genuinely don't know how Clemson was founded. So that was interesting, getting those people to know, especially the white people, the privileged white kids. Let them know like why people of color do things the way we do here, like why we don't refer to Tillman as Tillman. That whole thing. So yeah, and I went back after TL, and that one was even more eye-opening because as a TL you have more leadership, like you teach the classes most of the time, not our boss Aaron. So you have a lot of responsibility to like get people to understand like why we do what we do. Well, I'm proud of it, yes. But I think now the culture is kind of shifting now because our old boss Aaron left, and her boss is like taking it over. But like I'm not proud anymore because of, like the culture, but it's nothing to do with like the history or whatever of Clemson. Most of it they don't advertise. Who Thomas Green Clemson was, who Calhoun was, who Strom Thurmond was, who these people that the buildings are named after them now, but like they paint them as was war heroes and U.S. senators, but they were really like slave owners and racist old white men. Like call a spade a spade. Let's not forget who we are as a core. And I think it's like still like I was talking to this girl the other day at the panel I did on Monday, who said that I think it was last fall and last move in and move out last year, where like they had trucks and trucks and trucks like riding on Fort Hill Street with like Confederate flags, just waving them during moving up by homes because that's where most of the black students stay because they're in connections in McCabe. So I don't think we're far removed from our history as people think we are. Like, yes, it's 200 years later, but people still have issues with it. Like they still have those racial issues that we have to get past.
So why stay?
I think my community, like my A-Baby family, like literally our group chat. You were in A-Baby, you know how our group chat goes. Like we talk about any and everything. and even like the Black Clemson group, me too. Like that, those people. Like if I see somebody on campus, I know I'm going to speak to you. Like you don't have to be friends or anything, but like I want to at least acknowledge you. And I know I have that community where we're all dealing with the same issues. Like, you started a message last week about the study hall incident, right? Like that was an example that we are here for each other, I think. And yeah, my community is my short answer. Yes. Is there any part of connections that are different from being an OA or an A-Bevy? I would think A-Bevy and connections are kind of similar, but OA's not really. I think that's like the kind of lone wolf out of the three. A-Bevy connections, they look alike because first of all the demographics are pretty much the same. Like A-Bevy is mostly black. I don't have any white members. Like I don't have any at Clemson. We don't have any white members. I don't know about the other sectors, but we don't have any white members. So the conversation is kind of the same. The tone is a little bit of the same. The company is the same for a decent amount of connections with A-Bevy. It's kind of intertwined. But not so much OA. Like there are some people who are in OA that's also in A-Bevy, like Justin. He was on my OA team. From Connection, I'm trying to think, was anybody in OA? Olivia was in OA. She was in Connection with me. So like there's a little bit of the same people, same faces that you know for a while, but not so much between OAs and A-Bevy and Connection. I don't know, when I first got here, especially with OA, I found myself like trying to change and get around my white counterparts. Like the code switching thing I talked about maybe last time, I don't remember. But I thought I had to be like more proper and more clean cut. And like we call that code switching. But then I talked to somebody one day about that whole code switching thing, and they were like, even though you think you have to do it to like get a job or to get by, like that's not you being genuine to who you are. It's like don't change for those people. Be talented, be authentic, 100%. Whatever that is for you, but don't change it to please somebody else. So initially my code switching got better around those people, but now like if I want to say the N word around them, I'm not gonna not say it just because you can't say it, But yeah, one thing that took me a while to like get used to was because like our humor and the white people's humor isn't necessarily the same all the time. It's like the white jokes, like like they're funny, but they aren't like our kind of humor, So that was kind of different. But other than that, like. Okay, so they're similar in this way. They're both very family oriented. I think OA is a little bit different because like you spend over the summer when you're working with them, you see them from 7 to 11 most days. Other days from like 7 to 4. On the weekends, like you may see your friends, but most of your friends are probably back home or doing co-op somewhere else. So you're probably with them on the weekends too. So like for that one it's like more so I see every day type of family thing, but for the A-Bevy it's more like a we got each other's back type of family thing, So that's kind of how they're similar in the family aspects, but they're different when it comes to like why are y'all family? Always more of a convenience. A-Bevy is more like I need you to be my brother real quick type of thing. I think my experiences with those is kind of the same too. Like find your niche, find your people in the organization. So like two of my closest friends now, Thomas and AJ. Yes, we knew each other prior to being OAs, but we became family because like, we were some of the only black men on that team. In a pool of like 35, 40 people, you have like maybe 7 or 8 black men. Find your people. A-Bevy, like everybody knows I'm equally cool with my brother because he's obviously my brother. So yeah, I just think that those are my similarities and differences. My involvement, I think, played a pretty tremendous role. Because if I wasn't involved, I wouldn't have any connections. I don't think, like outside of my inside circle. Like I can call somebody now. Like probably what you need. I may not know the answer for you, but I can find somebody who knows the answer. And like me being in these different organizations, whether they be black or majority based. I just think that has kept me busy. One, very busy, and two, help me reach people who I wouldn't have reached had I not been as involved as I was before. I think that's also like played a role in like me learning about the university and what it truly stands for. Because like a lot of people don't know, like I don't think they take the time to like get involved and like take the time to get those extra little nuggets of information as to like the history. Like I've done a tour one time before of the plantation house. So that whole type of thing, I think, like kind of shed a new light on Clemson for me. Not really tainted to the point where I hate it, but like tainted it to the point where like, now I know who I'm truly dealing with, type of thing.
But that didn't make you want to leave? It didn't make you want to transfer?
No, I don't know. I never had thoughts of transferring. But no, it didn't. If I'm being honest, it didn't. There's nothing tying me here. I'll say that, but I'm not like gun ho set on leaving either. You know, like if something happened to the point where I couldn't stay here anymore, I could be out with no problem. But I haven't had that experience for myself yet. But I've seen things that will make some people want to. Also, I'm not the type of person that like gets genuinely upset a lot. So maybe that plays a role into like why I haven't had something maybe that upset why I have to leave, why I have to get out of here. But for some people who I know are like more emotional than me, that could upset them. I could see why. Like I said, that's not personalities. Maybe that plays a role into it. Don't be afraid to get involved with people with people who don't look like you. I think that's an opportunity for you to help people grow. Help people learn things that they don't know coming in. So don't be afraid to get involved. Like that's literally my advice I tell anybody. It's like no matter where you go, don't be afraid to get out there and get involved.
My mother is honestly the driving force behind me coming to Clemson. When she first set up my first email in middle school, it was RMMCU Tigers at Knology.net. If anybody knows about Knology, the KNO, Knology.net. And just from that point, like it was always Clemson over Carolina for me, and being from South Carolina, you get into rivalries. I don't know. College was, my father didn't go to college, where he had limited education. He was military, because he was, he's from Charleston, so his upbringing, he had to go into work. He couldn't really afford to, pay for school and just keep doing that. He had to go to work and help his family. Just about kind of fighting the system. I've always had this in my head of just kind of like going against what I clearly see isn't right. So when it came down to picking schools, obviously Clemson was in my mind, but then I started to want to play football, do things like that. So A&T was my first choice because I was like, HBCU, you know what I mean, out of state.
Hello.
Football player. Shit. But I think dealing with some health issues, I am a heart patient, so having heart issues and just kind of put things in perspective, I started to appreciate life a little bit more and look at like the bigger picture, the long term, and where I want to be. I ended up only applying to 3 schools. I applied at A&T, USC, and Clemson. I got into all 3, and I changed my mind in order of acceptance. And I don't know, I really was advised against coming here. I was told it's the capital of the KKK, and it's just, the horror stories you hear. And I came here in the fall of 2013 originally. And just a few years before that, I want to say maybe 5 years before that, they had a blackface party. That's when that happened. And then you hear about all these other things, just in the news maybe, or just word of mouth. And then I was just like, no, I want to go get, like, I can thrive in that environment. I was getting told just not to, that it's really just going to be a bunch of, I hate to say it, just be a bunch of white people. You're not going to really find that niche. You're not, you're going to stand out. And I was like, like, bring it on. I want to be that, like, guy to kind of shake the system up a little bit. Like, I'm tired of, people having their way and thinking, like, that's the way it's supposed to be. Like, no.
Right.
Things are built for people to get advantages that they don't all the time deserve. So I think, me coming to Clemson really was one of the things where I wanted to come here and change things off rip. Before I even got here, I wanted to come up here and be like, no, like I'm gonna succeed, you know, like I'm gonna be the smart black kid. Like I know I'm not gonna come here for sports. You know, I'm gonna come here and like be somebody. I think the old history of Clemson and how it was founded, and like we all know Tillman Hall is named after Benjamin Pitchfork Tillman, you know, and like Thomas Green Clemson, all these guys, like these are all still slave owners, you know, like and things of that nature. But to me, that wasn't one of the things that was at the top of my priority list. Growing up in Charleston, I noticed like most of what I saw was built on the backs of slaves. You know what I mean? Charleston is one of the biggest ports during the slave trade, and one of the the rice, the cotton industry. I mean, there's still plantations, and it's just for like a tourism, like the tourism industry down there benefits off the plantations that are still, you know what I mean? To see white men praised, because you learn about it in the history books, like, okay, yeah, George Washington, cool, like everybody, all these guys had slaves, like Abe had slaves, guys, like, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I think what bothers me the most in Clemson's history is just the kind of blatant disrespect of a subsection of its student population, and the like total disregard for our feelings, emotions, sometimes safety and well-being, and just like everything was kind of reactive when we first got here. You know what I mean? Like something would happen, we would get outraged and like blow up the president's like Twitter or email or whatever, and then we would get a statement. You know, we would get an email, and then time would pass, and it would happen again. You know what I mean? Like we're back doing the same things. They just cover it up better now. During my time here, it's been a little turbulent, just because I was here during the Yik Yak, its beginning and end. To where like when it first started popping on campus and when it was banned, like I've actually been in the library and been with a group of black people at a table and seen Yik Yak comments that were talking about me and my friends and calling us monkeys and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, and you see the news, the bananas, the Christmas party. We have the site sit-in, and you have the response from the student body from that. It's just amazing that in the 21st century that we really had a sit-in at this school, you know, at a top 25 public institution, there's a sit-in. And the attention that it got, but lack of support from the other fellow students is what really just blows my mind. You know what I mean? That you have another section of students who feel like this is our school, it's white, and white's right, and we don't, you know what I mean, unless they're here for athletics, we don't really care about them, you know what I mean, and, you know, it's just the blatant racism and prejudice at this school, just from your personal microaggressions and interactions on a day-to-day basis, is exhausting. When I worked with A. Bevy on the exec board, when we were president, we worked with MSA, Muslim Student Association. And we all know what happened about the Facebook post when they were selling donuts on Library Bridge. It's something that a lot of students do. And there were hateful comments left and saying they were trying to spread Allah, and they were getting threats, a lot of things. It was one scary because it's just like, wow, there's people that really hate everything that's not them. You know, just around you, not like just on the internet. You're not just like, it's not like you're just scrolling through Twitter and you see a viral video. Like, no, this is at your school. You know what I mean? So we're starting to see these things over and over again of just like blatant racism and acts, not just like, oh, somebody said the N-word, you know what I mean, on the internet or something like that. No, like we're seeing like people leave symbols of racism and leave literal signs that say you're not welcome here over and over again, and literal mocking of culture and everything that we hold dear to us over and over again. just being undermined, being questioned by your classmates, your intelligence being questioned all the time, the looks you get from your classmates. I mean, just if you walk into a room and you're the only black person in there, I mean, it's amazing just some of the looks you get. You know, some looks of confusion, some looks of like, ooh, you know what I mean? And some looks of like, ooh, I wonder if he's on the team, or if you're female, like, you know what I mean, same thing, or it's like, oh, her hair looks different this week. And when you spend years here, like, okay, after you get to like your second, third year, you're like, I'm trying to fight the good fight, but I can't fight this fight every day. You start to really lose your priorities because it's like, okay, now how can I best fight the system? Is it by fighting back at these, like fighting at every little thing that happens, you know what I mean, at this university, or by just putting my head down, ignoring it, and trying to succeed the best I can
in class?
Yeah, and just kind of like put all that pressure on myself to not be like a regular student, to ask questions, to go get help when I need it, but to feel like I have to be like a superstar. That was my freshman year, my sophomore year. I was marching on campus, like engineering student, like still taking time to like, you know, show up. We're doing these things, like, and these are students that are leading these things. Like, these aren't like community leaders, not the NAACP. They didn't come through and like, hey, we're gonna. No, this is black students with roles, responsibilities, the same kind of pressure as everybody else. It's just kind of sad to see, like, it's like having another whole job being black. It's literally like, because you're fighting back against the system just by waking up and coming to class every day. Empower the youth, really. That's part two. Just the young guys that I see around campus, the young ladies I see around campus, just encourage them, you know. Be kind to them, give them compliments. The fellas too, gas them up. Everybody I see, I love gassing people up just because I think being involved is really the only way you can get to know your black Clemson community. Being social and going to parties and things like that, that's cool. Going to class and studying with people, that's what you're supposed to do. Have you ever, like, really seen people try to pull together and make something happen out of nothing at times? So being on the exec board of specifically Clemson Black Student Union, so CBSU and ABEBI, seeing all of us come together and work with less funds than our white counterparts at the university, and that's not for lack of effort. Um, it's just, it's eye opening to see like some of the similarities you have with people, even people that you wouldn't even normally talk to in a regular setting. You know, like I'm friends with people that I would never have just randomly walked up to and just been like, "Hey, how you doing? Let's be friends." Through my involvement, like a lot of us saw what was going on here when we got here and saw that it was unfair. We wanted to change it. You know what I mean? We wanted to educate our peers. So in a bevy, once you discover your own purpose and your own things you're passionate about, and you have that enlightenment, kind of like after we go through the intake process and you actually open up to people and kind of you kind of see like, dang, so I think I have a little motivation, that I didn't have before. But it's not like it wasn't always there. It's just like I just discovered it. Like, aha. Or just getting people to realize like we're not telling you the answer. We're telling you that the answer is within yourself. Like nobody else can tell you what you want to be. Nobody else can tell you what's best for you. But I love it, baby. It's awesome. Definitely recommend it to a friend, to a friend's friend. I think it has a potential to be something that I'm proud of. As a whole, a bevy I'm proud of. I feel like our specific sector and a lot of the people in it I'm proud of. I'm proud of the work that we did. But for me to have pride in it, I feel like there's still a lot of legwork that needs to be done on both sides. On our side as members and on Clemson's side as an institution on, just like helping kickstart some of these, helping like even the playing field a little bit. Maybe if Clemson took more pride in these organizations, I could. But the fact that Clemson doesn't really care too much about its minority organizations, it's hard for me to have pride. And you know what I mean? It's kind of makes you question it. CBSU was actually started in response to the Blackface Party. When you're black at Clemson, like you have all these organizations being thrown at you: minority this, minority that, and black this, black. So it's like, what's just the common ground? Like no matter what my major is, what I do, what club, what my interests are. Like, what is one organization I know I'm gonna find some people like me, and that's the Black Student Union. Because they literally bring people from other organizations. So you'll have like people in Greek organizations that are in on the exec board. You have people that are on like technical organizations, scientific honors organizations, things like that come together and they put on events. And they have the social events, but a lot of times CBSU puts on more educational events. So just creating a sense of community, kind of the same thing that my specific role in ABEBI was. I served on the exec board for both. So I think that responsibility factor really made me more accountable. It made me work better with the team. It made me realize like there are a lot of different personalities that help me with my conflict resolution, be more patient with people, sit back and kind of understand people as opposed to like putting myself out there all the time and kind of expecting like leading from the front. Sometimes you have to lead from behind the pack, and that's the role that I found that I thrive in, is being a behind the scenes kind of leader. Like I don't really need all the credit or whatever, anything like that. My involvement, it lined up with what I wanted to do, like overall in life. So I put everything into it. I love being like a part of a team. Like I hoop. I love being that guy that my teammates can rely on. Like every game. Like I'm, no matter when we're playing, even if I don't feel like playing or whatever. Like it's what you're gonna get out of Robert. Um, I think early on my priorities were a little off because I wanted to shine. I wanted to be a star. So I said yes to everything. I wanted to host everything I could. I wanted to be in every organization I could. So I think that was slowly replaced by jobs. So I did struggle early on, and that put me in a hole that I am still climbing out of. I'm not saying that involvement by any means like will mess you up with your grades, but it can put it at risk. Any kind of responsibility other than your academic responsibility. That's just another thing to manage, and that's something else you have to make time for. I think for me, my motivation became that I would be the first Macwood man in my family to get a degree. I would be one of the first males on really either side of my family to have the degree. Because you look back, it's your grandparents, like, they're not that educated, and parents, like, you're lucky if they are. When you start to look into generational wealth and kind of things like that, it's just kind of sad to see how much we lack. And I don't think that necessarily the degree itself is as important to me as just one, finishing what I started, and two, having something like an official accomplishment behind my name. And then last year I had my first son, and just realizing what his father and mother having a degree from Clemson University would do for him, and just the potential it can have for him. Like, like, what? A lot different. And it's just perspective, man. Like, just now I'm just so close. Just get out of the way. get out of the way. And then I feel like once that is off my shoulders, I'll be a different animal in the same beast. That'll really open up my time to really like move forward, you know, because I've had a lot of professional opportunities and I couldn't really move forward on them because they're waiting on you to have your degree, you know? So it's like, if I just run from it, it's just going to keep burning, you know? Like, I feel like my original purpose was to come here and put out the fire or try to douse the flame as much as I can. So while I'm here, I'm going to keep doing that and hope that the people that come behind me douse the flame a little bit more, and the people that come behind them, and they just keep on inspiring a cycle of like reaching down and pulling up. You know what I mean? Because like we do get caught up in the competitive nature of college at times, but we can't compete against each other all the time. You know, we have to realize like we're already losing collectively. Even when we're beating out each other, we're still losing. Two things. Number one, inspire the people behind you. You know, because if you do all this work, fight the good fight, and you find out all these things about your university, and you find out a way to make things better, but you only have a limited time to do it, then they can ignore you if they only got to put up with you for 4 years. But if you create a snowball effect and you like tell the people that come behind you, okay, this is what the problem is, and this is what we're doing to fix it. This is how you can help. Bring them on board. So whenever you leave, the work continues. And number two, I just feel like fighting the systemic problems at the university is more important than trying to fight the everyday microaggressions and prejudices. Just being at the marches, like being vocal. I think I was with you one time. We chased down the president all over campus to get him to sign that petition. And it was like, yeah, I remember, we pulled up to the Clemson house demolition.
Right.
Bro,
Still a business groundbreaker. Finally saw him in a hard hat.
And it was like, that right there, like that literal legwork, walking all over campus looking for who's in charge to make him hear us, being there for the young folk. Like, I hate to say young folk, but like the people that came after me, like being transparent about like my experiences and not being afraid to joke on myself for being the old guy here, but at the same time, I'm quick to tell somebody to not be the old guy here unless like you have to be. I would say really study Black history. I know that's cliche, but you don't really you don't have to study like its roots and its beginnings and really get in depth and all that. Just really study some of our cultural trends that we used to have and compare it to some of the modern day pop culture trends, like things that are really popular, and realize that Black people are beauty, and Black people are fashion, and Black people are music. Black people are everything. Literally, we're everything. Just be proud of that Blackness. Just have faith in that Blackness. Find you some cool white people. I'm telling you, yes, there are a lot of racist ones, but just in the numbers game, there are a lot of cool ones too. It's just funny, It's not all white people from Clemson come from South Carolina. So when you meet people from like white people from different states, it's funny how they'll even be taken aback by some of the things that they see here. And some guy doubt you, some guy like look at you like you don't really know what you're talking about, and then you'll go to the next class and somebody is literally like asking you for help. You know what I mean? And like you're leading the charge, and it's just you can't be shook by that. Don't get too high, don't get too low. It's just stay even keel, be happy with your Blackness, love it, and realize that this world is a lot bigger than Clemson, is bigger than the U.S. Realize that a majority of the people here is only a fleeting moment. You're only going to be here with them for a short while. But when you do find those people that you do invest your relationships and your friendships with, like really invest in those, because these same friendships can also turn into professional relationships. and they keep you sane at the end of the day. You know, it's important to not necessarily find your clique. You know, you hate to be clicked up, but it's important to at least have, you know, some people that like you kind of can fall back on good and bad times. I had a small little friend group, you know, me, Rocky, and James. Like we literally did freshman year together, you know. And to this day, like James is the godfather of my son. You know what I mean? So it's like that friend I made freshman year is literally like a guaranteed lifelong friend, you know. And in my sophomore/junior year, when you came in and we formed squad.
Different.
And that like literally was crazy to me. That is because we were all so different. And we all came from so many different places, but we were all so similar. And I couldn't see it really. But until we actually started hanging out and just doing things together. But wow, yeah, I will say that I made some lifelong friendships even in that group, you know, because I still talk to every single one of those guys today, you know, and that was a friendship that was made
literally 5 years ago.
Just know that like your lifelong friendships are more than likely formed in college, so that's really what I would say.